Hello, friends. Wanted to share a little bit of news today with you and then talk about the intersection of meditation and mindfulness, which some people have been asking about lately. And I think I have some helpful things to offer in regards to it. Hi, friends. My name is Kenton Whitman, and together with my family, we aim to share wilderness skills, mindfulness practices, wild edible plants, family adventures, and skills that break you free from the limits of civilized life. Join us by subscribing to our channel and joining our YouTube family. So first of all, so this is the next book that we're putting out. It's called Becoming Dungeon Master. You may have heard me talking about this one before. It is a book that just sort of came to me when we were in Hawaii. I sat down one day and just started writing, and this emerged. And I'm not going to go deep into it right now. I just wanted to let you know that it's really close, and I'm soon going to do a video talking more in depth about it and telling you why I'm so excited about it. And the super short version is that this comes from a lot of the people that came to ReWild University, oddly, were pretty technologically addicted. And this isn't written just for people who would call themselves gaming addicts, but it's written for, in a way, all of us who recognize that technology has become enough of a part of our psyche that we can fight it, or we can recognize that, okay, this is part of my psyche right now. Is there a way that I can utilize that in order to have a meaningful spiritual path or philosophy of life that really guides me forward in a powerful way? So that's what I'm aiming for with this book, and I'll tell you more soon. So the subject of the intersection between mindfulness and meditation has been coming up a few times in the past months, just with people asking, what is the difference between those two? And for me, I sometimes think it odd that there's so much focus on mindfulness on this channel, which is supposed to be about rewilding. But when I first started exploring this idea of rewilding, know us long enough, we in some ways had felt like we had invented the term and then discovered we hadn't, and then started learning, oh, there's all kinds of other people that already had created this concept. But so many of the voices that I heard in rewilding seemed angry to me. It seemed like it wasn't really rewilding they were talking about, but rather being anti-civilization or anti-society. When we're anti something, we're usually putting some pretty negative energies in that direction. And I looked at that and I thought, that seems really odd that we'd be talking about separating ourselves out from the civilized, domesticated people and thinking of ourselves as better. And the reason it seems strange is that I feel like when you spend some time in nature, I saw this in myself spending 3 months out, and I saw this in forest monks when they would spend 4 to 11 months in the woods, that our mind becomes less judgmental. Our mind becomes more open, more curious. It doesn't fixate itself on angry, on us versus them. It can see our culture for arguably the insanity or craziness that permeates many aspects of it. But it also can see that there are beautiful things. It doesn't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. And so I started to think, the thing we really need to rewild is our minds. That's the most essential part. We can learn some skills, some ancestral skills. We can try to get our bodies in better shape. We can change our diets. Those are all really good, positive things. But if we don't focus on rewilding our mind, we will just be the kind of angry, violent, oriented kind of creature that so characterizes often people when we get overly civilized. I oddly, probably not oddly for a lot of you, but come with the philosophy that in our natural state, we are peaceful creatures, aware creatures, mindful creatures. It's when we surround ourselves with too much of the hyperstimulation, of the over-comforting, of the overcrowding that comes with our civilized life, that we start to feel that mindfulness degrade, that awareness degrade. And as those things degrade, so too does our ability to be compassionate, to be peaceful, to be creative, to be tribe-oriented in a positive way. Now, that word tribe has been usurped a lot and made into this idea of tribalism, of Democrats versus Republicans. But in my mind, when I use that word tribe, it extends out and it sees not just the people around you, but everybody as your kin. Maybe not your blood relatives in a direct sense, but our tribe, our relatives in a deeper sense than blood. So that is why I see this mindfulness and this awareness is so important when we're talking about a rewilding journey. Essential, really. Maybe the place where we should both begin our journey and not end our journey, but should also be the culmination, the thing that we're aiming for. And all those other things can feed into that journey of rewilding our minds. So that brings us to meditation versus mindfulness and the basic difference. And really, I often characterize this in the same way that we would characterize exercise. So let's say I want to get really good at parkour. And that is going to involve doing the actual parkour, but it's probably also going to involve doing exercise, calisthenics, stretching, changing my diet so I'm eating healthier food and I can build more muscle and not have inflammation in my body. Doing all kinds of things that are going to move me to the place where I can move my body more fluidly, more quickly, more elegantly, with more agility when I'm doing the actual parkour. So the at-home exercise, the calisthenics, the stretching, that's like our meditation. To me, I've come to see meditation as a very vital practice in my life. It's the foundation upon which I'm going to build all the real life movement, mental movement that I'm going to be doing in any given day. So like weightlifting, doing any kind of resistance training, this is the resistance training for our minds, where we can really sit down, dedicate some time to forging the strength of our mind, in particular, to be able to put our awareness where we want it, and to expand that awareness out, to not get locked into foveal vision, into foveal or one point mentality, to cultivate some basic traits of gratitude and of compassion. We do these things in our meditative practice. Mindfulness, that is our day-to-day, moment-to-moment being. And ideally what we're doing is we're taking the gifts of the meditation and we are extrapolating those out into our daily life, into our mindful life. So I'm training my brain, and then the mindfulness is our daily training. And the mindfulness is not something we just sit back and say, okay, I'll see how I do today. Based on, I did my meditations, and now I'm just gonna. The And mindfulness takes an effort too. It asks us to make a conscious effort to be present with our surroundings, to be open in our senses, to not get locked into mental, emotional, or sensory narrow little boxes. And to me, that's almost describes what I have found mindfulness to be for me. When I am locked in to a task, or just doing this, or I'm locked into a thought or worry, or I am locked in sensorily to, let's say, talking to the screen here, and I'm only looking at the image in the camera, then I'm not in my mindful state. So for me, it is all about relaxing and opening that tension that is so well trained in us, that overly focused state of mind. This is one of those things like bad posture. If I have that bad posture long enough, eventually this is what feels easy and good. And to get into a more straighter posture is going to feel like a lot of effort. But if you have cultivated good posture, this is going to feel uncomfortable. And so, very, very same thing. As we begin our meditative journey, we start cultivating that mindfulness, our mind is probably really slouchy. And so it takes a lot of effort. But eventually we find that the essence of mindfulness is an effortlessness. Because it really does take less effort to have my spine stacked upon itself than it does to do this. It may not feel like it when I'm used to this. But once I've created that nice alignment, then that comes naturally and it feels good. It feels easeful. And that's the super cool thing that waits for us in our mindfulness and awareness, is that the more we go there, the more initial effort we make, eventually we get to this place where it feels strange to not be mindful. Now, right now in my journey, I'm not going to claim at all to be mindful all the time, but I can claim at this point to feel uncomfortable when I'm not mindful. And that's what reminds me throughout the day. I'll notice that I'm mentally slouching and that it doesn't feel good. It feels like there's an effort. And that's because it does require an effort to focus down, as we've been taught, to take my mind and focus on this thought that I'm just da-da-da-da-da. And it's a weird autopilot focus, right? Our mind gets yanked to it in a weird way. It's very different than a focus of me now taking my focus and putting it over onto the mossy rock, shifting my focus up here. It's a pulling kind of junk food focus that I would equate with eating, the way that some broccoli can pull you in when you have a really good diet. And been intermittent fasting lately. And the other day I just really wanted some salmon. And I had been fasting for a while, and that was what I was craving, was salmon, not a cupcake or something else like that. That stuff actually felt gross to me. And so it's very much the same. This focus that we've all learned and been trained into is kind of the junk food focus. And right now it pulls us in time and time again. I see an advertisement or a movie and I just get pulled into it. Or I feel a ruminative thought coming, and I want to go over this imaginary conversation that I'm going to have with that person tomorrow. And it pulls me in. But it's an effortful junk food focus. So different than the open, gentle focus that we develop as we continue on this journey. So my promise to you is that it does get easier along the way. It does get uncomfortable to be unmindful over time. But like anything else in life, we do have to practice it in order to get to that point. And this, of course, is a practice that takes years and years and years. But here's where that intersection of meditation and mindfulness becomes so important. Because for a long time, I was not doing meditation. I just felt like I should be in a meditative state all day long. And so I'm going to try to do that. And I made progress, but it was slow progress. After I began a regular meditative practice, then everything catapulted forward for me because I was adding auxiliary exercises for my mind. And those make a huge difference. Just like in the parkour, developing that flexibility, doing when you're just walking around in your house, dropping down, doing a push-up and a handstand, and doing some of that conscious, more static exercising translates into much faster progress in our real life experience. So my friends, I hope you find this a little bit useful. And if you do, tell me in the comments below. I'd love to hear if you currently have a meditative practice. And if you don't, what might encourage you to develop one? If you've tried it and failed, what stopped you? What were the big roadblocks? Because a lot of us probably have had that experience of trying to start a meditative practice and then boom, it all crashes down to the wayside. There's some reasons for that, and I'll try to share some ideas and advice down there in the comments. If that's you and you've had that experience and you really want to commit yourself to one, what might work. And I will be sharing more about this in an upcoming video. All right, my friends, love to you all, and I will talk with you in the comments.